All right, welcome back. The viewers of this show are the best stewards of the country's land by far, right? Nobody cares more about it than our farmers and our ranchers. It's obvious why that's the case. It's their livelihood, right? It's their shop floor. It's their Main Street window. They're going to make sure that it's all well and looked after, and they're going to keep it in tip-top shape. That's why it frustrates me when the government or activists get involved. They think they know better. Now, climate change and the climate crazies have sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And it's a touchy subject because if you disagree with them, automatically it's assumed that you don't care about clean air or clean water. They run roughshod over any and all detractors. That's why it's easy to spend $1 billion of taxpayer money to plant and maintain trees in cities across America. Yeah, you heard that right. This week, the USDA announced it's spending $1 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act to plant trees. Now, they say it will help communities battling climate change to reduce heat, otherwise, by the way, known as shade, and benefit health and improve access to nature. Really? Now, when I saw that headline, I wasn't sure if it was real or not. $1 billion? Seriously? But then I remembered 2 years ago when the mainstream media told us that trees are racist because only tree canopies exist in wealthy neighborhoods. Even still, $1 billion seems like a lot of money. When I was a kid on our farm, the DNR, right, they gave us 1,500 walnut and 1,500 fir saplings for next to nothing for us to plant. I know, I planted 4,500 of them as a kid myself. What happened to that program? What about all the other things we could spend that $1 billion on? My next guest knows the Inflation Reduction Act was nothing but a Green New Deal steal, probably. Please welcome into the show, Mike Lee. Mike, thanks for being on. All right. It's got me fired up because, like I said, whenever we wanted, we would call up the DNR, and for basically nothing, we get 1,500 saplings of anything, walnuts and fir trees mainly. But I planted a lot of them myself, and that wasn't $1 billion program. What's going on?
Yeah, so Scott, this is just so unbelievable and egregious. You are taking this is urban gentrification at the cost of the United States Agriculture Department. So think about how far $1 billion could go to farmers across middle America. Obviously, that's still not a lot of money considering the farmland, but that could really help a lot of people. This is plain and simple urban gentrification under the guise of some sort of climate nonsense. Why can't these cities pay for it themselves? That's where all the smart people and rich people live, right?
Right, exactly. Good point. I mean, and that's one of my problems. I mean, there have been things in the past that don't cost anywhere near $1 billion to help out with this. And like I said in the monologue, to help with heat, well, that's called shade. All right. Well, we can find that a lot of places. And to help, get you back to nature. How about taking a walk? I mean, I don't get it. But the problem is, if you say anything, all of a sudden you're canceled.
Yeah, look, people need to start standing up to this left-wing climate nonsense. It's buying into the notion that cow farts control the weather. It is insane. If it sounds insane, it's because it is, right? And that's what they're coming for. This Inflation Reduction Act is not only responsible for this nonsense, and keep in mind, this money is not coming from like some urban renewal part of the government. This money came straight out of the Department of Agriculture, okay, taken away from the people it was intended for people who hate middle America. So that in itself is bad. But the larger picture here is this Inflation Reduction Act is simply the Green New Deal under a different name. Okay, how affordable did healthcare become after the Affordable Care Act? Right?
Right.
In my experience, it absolutely skyrocketed. I think there's data that proves it grew at 2 to 3 times the cost of inflation. So healthcare is unaffordable to anyone in this country, but it's racist to question that. The Inflation Reduction Act, I feel, will have the same effect on inflation. And it is largely responsible for the UAW strike as well because of this insane push towards electric vehicles, which net don't really do what for the economy or for the environment or the economy. So this is one of the most devastating pieces of legislation ever passed in the history of the United States. It pushed the cost structure of everything higher. It's like, well, hey, why can't we use solar power? That just comes from the sun, because you need like 3 times as much solar power to equal what you're getting out of normal fossil fuels, and not to mention all the environmental waste, all the cost, all the plowing of fields with trees to put in a solar field, only so that you can get 20 to 30% of what you're simply getting with the existing grid. So this capital investment coming up is something like 15 to 20 times to produce a third of the energy. What is that going to do to everyone's energy bill? What is that going to do to the cost of electricity? I bring up this stat a lot on this show because it's important for everyone to realize that the UK committed to a carbon neutral economy in 2003, and as a result, they've grown at 40% less than every other G8 nation in the world on a per capita basis. So these are devastating things that will further hamper our economy. They will keep poor people poor, and they will solidify the wealthiest and most powerful in the places they have. Oh, I wonder why it is they're pushing for them.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it's the Inflation Production Act. It's going to do the opposite of what it's actually intended for, just like that health care bill did. And I agree with you 100%, and it's just now starting to trickle through the system. And the very fact that we're taking money out of the folks out in the country and giving it to the people in the cities that sit behind their keyboards, the keyboard warriors that actually hate them, is unconscionable to me. So anyway, I thought I'd bring it up to the folks out there, and you just put it in. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, Mike Lee, you're coming back for sure. He's in Sarasota. Let's bring up those by now you know I've got these go-tos. Let's bring up